monkeys, zebras, jaguars, and bison. Which of these animals calls the United States home? Trick question. They all do. And there are many more surprising animals living across the US. Today we're looking at the most unexpected wild animals found in the United States. Where are they? And how did they get there? Let's investigate. First, the American bison, which might seem like an odd choice for the list because its presence in the United States is by no means surprising. After all, it is the national mammal of the US, and it appears on everything from state flags to coins. Not to mention the fact that there are almost 500,000 bison living in the United States. This is more about the surprising location of two particular wild herds, the first of which is located on a Southern California Marine Corps base, Camp Pendleton. Gifted to the base in the mid-1970s by the San Diego Zoo, the herd started with only a handful of bison. Since then, it has grown to 90 bison strong. With over 100,000 acres of open land, the base provides the perfect grazing ground for the bison, who seem unfazed by the sounds of gunfire and explosions. In fact, training exercises are often halted due to the presence of a few wandering bison in the area. As for the other California bison herd, it can be found in an equally surprising location, an island in the Pacific Ocean. Northwest of Camp Pendleton lies Santa Catalina Island, home to another herd of over 100 bison. These bison were originally brought to the island for the filming of the silent movie The Thundering Herd, but once the movie finished, they were left behind. The original 30 bison rapidly multiplied, and the Catalina Island Conservancy had to ship hundreds of bison to mainland sanctuaries to manage the population. Today, the herd is closely monitored and can easily be spotted roaming the island. And bison aren't the only surprising animal living in California. There's also a dazzle of wild zebras. I briefly covered California's wild zebras in my latest video, so I won't go too in depth on it. But since zebras were the main inspiration for this video, I couldn't leave them out. Just up the coast from Catalina Island is San Simeon, California, home to the only wild zebras in the United States. In the early 1900s, newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst imported zebras and other wild animals from across the globe to fill his own private zoo. However, when Hearst's fortune started to crumble, he was forced to sell his animals. But the zebras were not sold. Instead, they were released onto the nearby land. With no natural predators in California, the dazzle continued to grow each year, currently consisting of over 100 zebras. Drivers on Highway 1 through San Simeon can easily spot the zebras not too far off the highway. And zebras weren't the only animal imported into the US. There's also the Gemsbok, also known as the South African Oryx. The large mammal was brought to New Mexico in hopes of increasing big game hunting opportunities. From 1969 to 1977, the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish released 95 Oryx into the areas surrounding White Sands Missile Range. Despite the implementation of a hunting season in 1974, the Oryx population skyrocketed, reaching 3,500 individuals in the early 2000s. Hunting limits have since been relaxed in an attempt to curb population growth, because similar to the San Simeon zebras, the Oryx living in New Mexico historically have not faced significant threats from predators. However, this may be about to change. In recent years, mountain lions have developed a taste for Oryx meat, and to make matters worse for the Oryx, another large predator once native to the area might be making a comeback. The jaguar. Jaguars once roamed a significant portion of the southwestern United States, but due to hunting and habitat loss, they were driven further south into Mexico. And by the mid-1900s, the entire US jaguar population was believed to have been completely wiped out. But then, in the 1990s, there were jaguar sightings in Arizona and New Mexico. Over the past couple of decades, 10 different jaguars have been documented in the United States, all believed to be traveling north from Mexico. This has prompted efforts for habitat restoration. However, considering the rarity of the sightings and the fact that all documented individuals were male, it may be some time before a stable jaguar population is established in the United States. And did you know for a period of about 80 years, jaguars shared their habitat with another surprising animal? The camel. In the mid-1800s, the US government brought camels to Camp Verde, Texas. This was part of an experiment to help explore the arid deserts of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Their ability to go long distances without water made them more beneficial than horses or mules. But at the start of the American Civil War, Camp Verde was attacked, and a portion of the camels escaped. Already accustomed to the harsh conditions of the desert, the escaped camels lived in the wild for nearly a century, with the last reported sighting taking place in 1941. As for the US government's camel experiment, it was abandoned after the Civil War ended, and the remaining camels were auctioned off to circuses, farmers, and zoos. Now let's head east, to what's ironically become the wild, wild west of unusual animal inhabitants, Florida. In a state famous for its alligators, Everglades National Park holds holds a distinctive honor. It's the only place in the United States where you can find wild crocodiles. It's also the only spot in the entire world where alligators and crocodiles coexist. But in recent years, a more problematic reptile has been making headlines: the Burmese python. Originating from Southeast Asia, these pythons are believed to have been former pets released into the wild. Over the past 2 decades, they have reproduced at an alarming rate, wreaking havoc on the local wildlife. Mammal populations in particular have suffered greatly, with some species experiencing a 99% decline. This has led to extreme measures. Most notably, the park hosts a yearly python catching competition. In 2023, the week-long contest yielded the capture of 209 pythons. Unfortunately, adult female pythons are known to carry more than 50 eggs at a time, which means Everglades National Park is facing an uphill battle if it wants to prevent the growth of this invasive species. Not all unexpected animals are invasive though. In one Florida park, you can see wild manatees in their natural habitat. Located hundreds of miles north of Everglades National Park, Silver Springs State Park is home to a remarkable sight: wild manatees. These marine mammals need warm waters to survive, so when the Gulf of Mexico cools in the winter, the manatees migrate to the springs. Here, the water maintains a temperature of 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, and given a manatee's peaceful nature, they are usually very easy to find. Visitors can often paddleboard or kayak within feet of these gentle creatures, but the park does have a few hundred non-native residents. Rhesus monkeys. Normally found in the area from Afghanistan to Eastern Asia, they were brought to the park by Colonel Toohey. In the 1930s, Toohey owned a jungle river cruise along the Silver River. To enhance the jungle feel of his cruises, Toohey released 6 rhesus macaque monkeys onto an island in the river. But he didn't know that rhesus monkeys are incredibly skilled swimmers, and they quickly escaped the island. Despite this, they were easily enticed to the shore with food and became a huge hit with tourists. So popular, in fact, that in 1948, Colonel Toohey released 6 more monkeys into the park. Since then, the population has grown exponentially. From 1984 to 2018, over 1,000 monkeys were removed from the area. Today, there are about 200 living in the park, but visitors are advised keep their distance. The monkeys are known to carry a virus that can be fatal to humans if bitten. And surprisingly, Silver Springs isn't the only place in the US that has monkeys. There's also Morgan Island in South Carolina. Brought to the island in 1979, the colony of around 4,000 monkeys is owned by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Because of this, visiting the island is strictly prohibited. Do you know of any other unexpected animals living in the United States? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.